So I just finished watching seasons 1 and 2 of The Bear for the first time, and with the release of season 3, I wanted to give my thoughts on the show and why I think it might be the best show on television right now. And just a heads up, my review is going to be spoiler filled for seasons 1 and 2. I haven't had the chance to watch season 3 yet, and when I'm filming this, it hasn't even been released yet, so there won't be any spoilers for season 3. I'm just touching on the first two seasons. So let's get started. And what I think works best about this show is the characters. It's just insane how strong these characters are. Where we start off and we have Jeremy Allen White, and his portrayal of Carmi throughout the show is insanely good. It might be one of the best performances on television right now. It is one of the best performances on television right now. It's just so well done. And I think everyone, this I could give this positive to all the characters and all the performances in the show. They just feel like real people. Where there are tons of good shows out right now. I just finished watching the first season of The Last of Us. Excellent show. Watching Gen V right now. Really good show. But they all feel like scripted characters. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, obviously superheroes don't exist and we're not in a zombie apocalypse, so they don't have to feel like exactly like real people. But in The Bear, these characters, like, you could convince someone that you're watching just like a documentary and just live footage of a kitchen because these characters are so real and they think and act like humans do. We don't have this episode where a character's problem is brought up and then throughout the episode they just see little ways to change it. No, this show does a great job of just characters working on themselves, and it's not just an overnight thing. These characters are facing their struggles and they're just working and just trying to be better every day. And that's just such a really cool lesson, such a really cool way to just have characters in a show because that's how life is. We don't get like 20 minutes of just working on a lesson and all of a sudden we're great at it. There's some things that the show can resolve in an episode, but I really like how it handles its character arcs. And that was another thing I loved about the show Ted Lasso, which might be my favorite show of all time. I think the way it handled characters and character arcs is very similar to The Bear, and that's one of the reasons I love this show so much. I think that its characters are just so good and just feels real. It doesn't milk plot lines for drama. Where if you look at the show and you hear about we're gonna have Carmi have a love interest with Claire, you would think, okay, it's gonna start going in these formulaic, generic plot lines. It doesn't at all. It feels like a real relationship, and it doesn't need to have these big setups and these like big fights. It's just these little things you see and see how it affects the two characters. Where when we get to the finale of season 2 and we have Carmi not calling Claire back because he's focusing on what the task at hand and he's feels like he owes Sydney to put space between him and Claire. And then you just see slowly throughout the ending of the show of that season how she comes to the family and friends dinner and is just feels super distant from him. And eventually, when you get to that scene where she overhears what he's saying in the freezer, it doesn't feel like this big setup to this like fight. It just feels like it's just really uncomfortable, but real conversation between these two characters. And I think it's just excellent. I think that just all the relationships in general, I think Carmi and Richie's relationship is a lot of fun. And I really appreciate how you can just tell that they get on each other's nerves so much, but at their core, they love each other. Where you have that scene at the, like I'm talking about, a lot goes down when Carmi's in that freezer at the end of season 2, but he gets locked in there and he's just yelling these super, super hurtful things at Richie. And Richie's just responding saying how he loves him because Richie's had that character growth and he's just wanted to be there for Carmi. He's found his purpose. And that's just something that's really, really special. Where I like to compare how we have that big episode where everything went down. I think it was episode 7 of season 1, and compare it against the last 2 episodes of season 2. It's a similar situation where they're just underprepared and stuff's going down and they need to deal with it, but our characters are at different places now and they know how to handle it. So certain characters in season 1 that were being the problem. Richie was causing so much trouble in that first big scene in season 1 and like he got stabbed and all these things. But in season 2, Richie steps up to the plate and saves them. I thought that was just a really cool place to take his character and just a really good growth. And yeah, I mean, that's what you want to show. You want these characters to feel like they're real and just feel like they're just changing like a normal person. They're not these like super dramatic TV show arcs. And I just really appreciate that with the show. I think that they're just the smaller moments in the show work so, so well, where you don't need a big, like, eye catching scene or anything. You can just have these moments that mean so, so much. Where their mom, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, is caught outside the restaurant by Sugar's husband, and it's just this little moment, and it just like breaks your heart when he goes back in there and just crying to her. It just hits you in the feels, and the show does it so well. Or the episode of The Seven Fishes, that was like one of the most stressful television episodes ever. I was shocked at how intense that was. But if you really step back and look at it, it's just a family dinner. But just how these characters interact with each other, how you just know there's so much that's not being said, and what's being said is not what should be said. It just feels like the perfect mix of awful, where you know this is just going to explode. And the way it happens is just, it's devastating, and it just makes for a really intense episode, but it's such a well done episode. And that's another episode I want to connect to season 1. I think that while we do have the big kitchen mishap at the end of season 2, I think that episode, the Seven Fishes, the dinner at Christmas time, is really paralleling the breakdown that Carmy has in the kitchen in season 1, episode 7. Except we're not watching it, we are watching it through Carmy's eyes, but we're seeing how Michael handled that situation. And it's very similar to how Carmy handled the situation in that first season, where he starts throwing, getting agitated, upset. And it just shows how similar they were, but also at the same time how Michael really wanted Carmy to be better. And I think that's just interesting way to handle the relationship between the show. I really like how we didn't start with Michael in the show. We started after Michael was dead. And so it makes it, we see these moments, these memories through Carmy, and it feels like he is such a presence in the show without him ever being alive in the timeline we've been watching. So that's just so well done that we feel like he's a character. We can just imagine what he'd be thinking in these situations. It's just so cool that they managed to capture that, even though he's not involved in the story at all. But he's always in the hearts of these characters, that we feel his presence throughout the entirety of the show. And that's just uncool. And from watching the trailer season 3, seeing him in there, you just know that that's going to be kept up. I also think the story that they go through in these 2 seasons is super well done. I like how they kind of inverted the fall and the rise, where it's almost like Carmy had to let this place go. He wanted to work at the Beef for so long, that they talk about it, how Michael would never let him work there. And he finally gets it, and he realizes he has to tear it down. It doesn't work. It's broken. And that's just such an interesting idea, where he finally gets what he wants, but realizes it's not right. And that him and Michael, their dream is a reality, and they can make it happen. And that's just such a cool idea. And it's a great lead in from season 1 to season 2, where you have the whole season and you think they're going to go the classic, this place is terrible, we're going to fix it up, make it great. And no, it's, this place isn't what's right. It's not right for us. None of us are growing in this place. But there's so much potential under the surface. So then when they create the bear, you can see everyone really cares, and everyone wants to work as hard as they can on it. And there's certain characters, like we have one of our older chefs who kind of wants things to remain the same, but then you can just tell that everyone really, really wants to make this change. Even Tina, who at the beginning was not liking the change of Sydney and Carmy and everyone in there, Richie, but then they go and they see like how this kitchen can operate, where they send Tina off to school, they send Richie to go work in another like high like high value prolific kitchen, and he just realizes how he can help people do that. It's not about just getting the food out, it's about giving people this awesome experience. And I think that's such a really cool way to do it. Marcus going abroad, it just you really feel like these characters are just learning the experiences and they don't feel like just plot lines. They feel like we're watching these people grow. And that's what I love about the show. We're watching just people just work as hard as they can and try to do their best. And so it makes some of these moments when they fail, it makes it hard to watch. And that's why the show, I've heard a lot of people say, is so stressful. And I agree it's stressful. I don't think it's stressful though because the plot is so intense. Although it can be at times. I think it's stressful because you just you feel like you are these characters. You feel like you're there with these characters and you just want them to succeed. You really just you don't want to see them fail. So when you do, it breaks your heart. And so some of these moments at the end where Marcus is getting his a text on his phone that something happened to his mom, and he's also feeling the stress about how he asked out Sydney, you just feel everything crumbling around him. He built this awesome place for himself at this place at the Bear, and just seeing him slowly just like get pulled out almost. I'm guessing that's where they're gonna go in season three. It's hard to watch, but I think the show is just so well done. And every time they start going a direction, I'm like, I wonder where they're gonna go with that. It always blows me away. Like when they introduced Claire, I was like, okay, I'm a little nervous now because I feel like we're gonna go the whole romance playing over the main plot line. But no, that they address that, and Carmi's like, I don't want that to happen. The restaurant comes first. I think that was just such an interesting direction to go with it. And honestly, I think the show is excellent. I feel like my favorite episodes, if I had to pick, I really liked this one I've been talking about a lot, but season one, episode 7, the one shot, insanely good. That is crazy. And honestly, one of the most impressive episodes of TV. I would also say I really liked the Seven Fishes one and just how tense and how just well acted, the cameos. I mean, there were some of them that, like Bob Odenkirk, he's a big TV actor. It's not a huge surprise he's popped up in a TV show. But then we got Jamie Lee Curtis, and there's just some insane appearances in that episode that I was really surprised by. I also really loved Richie's episode about him going to his other kitchen and just finding his purpose. That was one of the key plot lines of season 2, finding his purpose, and to see that happen in such a cool and just it feels such like a good payoff. Where we have the beginning of the season and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing now. I thought the beef was my purpose, but now with everything going on, just wondering what's what's purpose in life, and then finding it that it's helping others was just such a good episode. And I would also say the finale was really well done, but I liked all of the episodes of the show. I think it's excellent, insanely good. I think that this cast is going on to do some great things. We already got Jeremy Allen White in the Iron Claw. He was excellent in. It's a shame that movie got no Oscars attention, and I will never forget the Oscars for that. Ayo Ebadiri, she's been popping up in a lot lately, and yeah, Ayo Ebadebri is definitely going to be in a lot more. Sorry, I mispronounced her name, but I corrected it. And Eben Moss Bachrach joined the MCU. That's awesome. Hopefully we see him in other stuff. Don't want the MCU to just take an awesome talent. Got to see him more, but just overall the entire cast is just excellent. And that's the thing. I think I just love the show for how real it is. And I care truly about these characters. So I want to keep watching more. I want to see what happens next. But I just love how much the show invests you and makes you feel for everyone in it. If I had to say, I'd probably say that I think season 2 is better than season 1. I liked how it was a little longer. I thought the 10 episodes, I thought it was just a better format maybe, where season 1 had a good length. I think 8 episodes. You can have a lot in those 8 episodes, but season 2, I thought just it had these episodes like where it just focused on Richie, or we had the flashback episode, or we had Marcus, him going abroad. And I think they really added to the characters and made the characters feel just stronger. And I really thought it bettered the overall show. So this show I absolutely love. I think it's going to go in some interesting direction in season 3. I'm really curious how much they'll focus on Carmy and Claire's relationship. I think that's going to go in an interesting direction. I think that will be a big plot line. And I'm just curious because we built up the bear so much in season 2. We had our friends and family night that didn't go the best for Carmy, but the actual night overall seemed to go really well. So where's Carmy gonna go from there? Is he gonna... I'm not sure where his character's gonna go, but I think it'll be interesting to see the actual opening and just see how well the restaurant does. I think it's gonna be mostly focused on opening. I think it'll probably take place in a short time period, just about the initial couple weeks of the restaurant, but I mean, who knows? I think also it'll be about them trying to get their star, and maybe actually it won't be those couple weeks. Maybe it'll take place a little longer as they hunt for the star. But yeah, I'm very excited to check it out. By the time this is posted, it will have released, so definitely give that a watch. And yeah, The Bear is just an amazing, amazing, excellent show. Love how real it feels, and I will definitely be continuing watching, and hopefully we'll talk about it again soon. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any other videos on the channel.